So let's go back to our senior living options at a glance at this page. Now, when we're talking about senior living options, really, it starts with active adult communities, home ownership, like Sun City, Heritage Oaks is a smaller one. We're going to skip that part of the discussion because many of you already live there. So, that's really that first step in downsizing. What we're going to be focusing on today are the next steps, options that you might want to be aware of and get rid of those misconceptions. That's where my grandmother lived. I'm never going to one of those places. Let's get in tune with what the places today are, and we'll come up with a wonderful, I'm not going to go live with those old people. Some of us might want to check our own driver's license age. And remember, when we started the year this year, it's about stage, not age. We can have 50-year-olds who are a lot older in some ways than 80 and 90-year-olds. So, it's not the number, it's our lives. It's how engaged we are. And part of this, the communities really support us in that. So, when we talk about senior living options, one of the, it's changing so much because we're such a growing segment of the population. This is kind of a newer development. If you see the first one there, active adult 55 plus apartments and condos. So different from Sun City, because now we're talking about leases, rents, apartments. And they become very popular. What's the hallmark of these? It's age restricted. And so their activities, amenities focused on 55 plus. Generally, they do not have a meal plan. Now, there may be dining options available. We'll be hearing about that today. But one of the, when we think about independent living, one of the main things is some type of meal plan. And I know this really came home to me when a woman had been a realtor, sold her previous home. She'd moved into Sun City. Her husband passed away. She called me a few years ago and said, okay, I'm ready to move on to the next chapter. And she had a lot of friends here, so I knew she was going to one of our communities here in town. And then when I went to meet with her, she said, no, in this case, she was going to Affinity in Round Rock. And I was kind of surprised. It was 55 plus. And I have to admit, at that time, didn't have a lot of experience with it. And I go, oh. She goes, I don't want a meal plan. I don't need that. And where I think we're seeing, I've heard people in communities say, that has become, people say, I don't want to have home ownership. I don't want that. But I still want to be more in control of my whole life. So that's part of that. We'll learn more about what it looks like in these communities. Independent living, there's some type of meal plan, something you've got to check out. It may range from 3 meals a day at serve family style to you have $500 a month that clicks off on your card when you use it to I'm going to have 2 meals a day. There are options, but there's some type of meal plan. It has to do with what's important to you. So, and with independent living, we have, again, there are the activities, some type of transportation is provided, and there's light housekeeping. So when we're saying, I'm ready to give up some of this stuff, there you go. You have a little bit more services, perhaps, and it's more of a, perhaps communal, because it is a community, than what we see in 55 plus, although they can develop communities too. Assisted living. Now, so this is where, when someone needs more assistance with activities of daily living, and often we think of this in terms of bathing, dressing, grooming, toileting, eating, walking. If someone needs assistance, but they're still active. You're going to be hearing about that today. We have assisted living communities. Some are standalone communities. Truewood, that we'll hear from today, now they have memory care too, but they're assisted living. Whereas some of our others, as in the Oscar and the Delaney, they have independent living and assisted living and memory care in different sections. Or a lot of you are familiar with the Wesleyan. There's a different building, but you have those different levels of care, but they're all separate. So we'll be finding out more about that. Now, another way that assisted living is delivered is Grand Living offers a different type of approach. All their apartments are dual. They can be independent or assisted living, determined by the needs of the residents. And that can open up a whole lot of questions. I know the people we have on with us today are people who've joined with us as partners this year, and 2 new ones who look to be partners next year. But we can answer some questions about others. And we're not here just to market these communities. They're here to share information with you. But Grand Living here in Georgetown does have a unique way of offering independent living and assisted living. Assisted living, you have 3 meals a day. It's more a set than like with the independent. Memory care communities, we're not going to get into extended discussions about memory care. We'll do that at another seminar. I know there are lots of questions, and you can visit with some of these people. They have experience with memory care at all 3 of the communities. So, but we're kind of focused on independent and assisted living. The one at the bottom, I want to just mention briefly, continuing care retirement communities. You often hear them referred to as CCRCs. We do not have any true, and words get in our way and complicate things here. But in Georgetown, we do not. But there are 3 true CCRCs in the Austin area. Some of you may be familiar with Westminster down by Camp Mabry. It is a CCRC. I'll explain more about that. Carencia at Barton Creek is a CCRC, as is Longhorn Village and Steiner Ranch. Like the other communities that I mentioned, they have all levels of care. The difference in a CCRC is there is a contractual relationship to provide care for you throughout your life. Now, you enter when you're in independent living. You have to qualify physically, and you have to qualify financially. And there's a large or significant entry fee for these communities. What that does is then, when I go in at independent living, my monthly rate, which is there based on my apartment, if I need to move into assisted living, I will continue to pay that amount with some increase for 3 meals a day, and yes, there can be just a certain percentage, but it's not jumping to what assisted living is. People are concerned, rightly so. It is a very large enrollment fee. When you pass away, depending on the plan you're in, not 80% or 90% goes back to your estate. So the money comes back, but it's one of those things it's a can of worms if I open and say too much, but I want to mention that. And I know Brian's had experience with CCRCs and maybe some others. Okay, Jen Slayton has. I can answer questions, but I just want people to be aware of that. But what we're focusing on, because most of my people here are looking at often staying in the area, but I also want to add that sometimes you say, well, I really don't have family here, maybe I should move to where I have family, and go ahead and make that transition now. You can learn about the types of communities and then educate your family and find very similar communities around the country. So I think that's enough for an overview. And we're going to go ahead, if my panelists will come up. And I'm not going to ask for questions because then we won't get to the panelists. I know that. Okay, let's see. I'm going to have, oh no, I don't, okay, oops. Let's see, who did I say? Oh, I know. Brianna, you're here. And then I'm going to have, let's see, Carissa, you're over there. I know that. There you go. And then I'm going to have, Jennifer, why don't you come right here? And Brian right there. There is a method here, okay? It relates to our little sheet. So I'm going to let you all go ahead and sit down if you'd like to feel a little more comfortable. And so I'm going to ask them to do a quick introduction. I don't want to block people over here. Okay, well, I'm blocking the Roberts. Okay. Here we go. All right, I'm going to ask them to introduce yourselves, the community you represent. Oh, and here's an important takeaway. They represent communities, not facilities. Mark that word out of your mind when we're talking about senior living. Those facilities. It seems kind of institutional, whatever. These are communities, so let's use the right jargon here. But they're going to say the community they represent, levels that you have in your community, and briefly where you are. So, Brianna.
Wonderful. Good morning, everyone. My name is Brianna Moberg, and I am the Sales and Marketing Director for Watermere and the Reserve at Round Rock. We are a senior living campus that provides 55-plus active adult and senior independent living. I have been in this industry for about 14 years, so I'm excited to be here.
Okay, thank you. And you say they are down in Round Rock, but they're close by. So
yes.
Okay, good. Okay.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the 3 days of fall we're going to have in Texas this week. My name is Jennifer Slayton. I have the pleasure of being the Director of Sales and Marketing for the Delaney at Georgetown Village. We are an independent assisted living and memory care community. I have 34 years of experience in serving seniors in the Central Texas area, in independent assisted living, memory care, rehab, and skilled nursing, both rental and CCRC. And it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
Thanks, Jennifer. Right.
Good morning. My name is Brian Haddock. I'm the Executive Director for the Oscar at Georgetown Senior Living. We have independent living, assisted living, and memory care. And I've been in the senior living industry for 25 years this month, and very happy to be here.
Okay, thank you. Carissa.
Hello, my name is Carissa Foley. I am the General Manager at Truewood by Merrill Georgetown. I was formerly known as the Legacy at Georgetown with the sheep out front. I've been in the industry now for 6 years, all 6 years at that community. Thank you.
Good, good. So we have lots of experience here. Again, I always remind people, while they are representing their particular communities, it's also a look at the industry. So understanding more about 55-plus apartments for our panel today, she's the representative for that area in particular. Independent living, she and Jennifer and Brian all have independent living. In assisted living, you all have another campus. So we're going to look for assisted living. They have that at the Delaney, at the Oscar, and Truewood. We have Carissa. That's the one, as she mentioned, it was Legacy with the sheep out in front right there by Sun City. So Do the sheep still move around? It's kind of, are they still there?
The sheep have dwindled. The sheep have been very popular. People have borrowed them for weddings, but they have actually been heisted. We have one left. We're keeping a watchful eye on him by our front door now, but we'll be getting more. And unfortunately, we're going to have to anchor him down this time, so they won't be moving around in the pasture.
For some of you probably don't know what we're talking about, but for those of us who drive out that way and into Sun City, it was always fun to kind of see where the sheep were grazing, and they did move around, and some wandered too far, apparently. So, okay. All right. I want us to talk first about why people choose to move to live with seniors only. And so we've kind of divided this out so we won't have you here all day. They're not going to all address every question, but we'll call on different people, and then if they just have to add something, I'm sure they will. So Brianna, let's talk with you. Why do you see people moving to senior living communities?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are a couple of, can you guys hear me? Awesome. So there are a number of reasons why I've seen a lot of seniors decide to make that move into a 55-plus community, and I really boiled it down to 3 big reasons. The first one is they're ready to live a maintenance-free lifestyle. Who can relate to that? Right? Maybe you don't want to deal with the upkeep of the house or the property anymore. So to be able to be in your own community, not having to worry about that is a huge plus. Another reason is support, right? So if you're someone that's still very, very independent, but maybe you want to have options for meals, then that's available to you as well. And then lastly, I would say socialization, right? We see a lot of people, I mean, we've all gone through COVID, and let's be honest, it wasn't easy on any of us, right? And so I've seen a lot of times seniors, they stay home, and now they're wanting to make a move to a community where they can meet like-minded people and keep their mind and body active through activities and such going on campus.
And I want to pick up real quickly, over the year in our seminars, we often hear the importance of social engagement and interaction. Very critical to preserving our lives, just to keep us going. And I'll be real honest here. My reservation, I'm going to stay in my house. I love my house. I'm staying in my house forever till I go out in the pine box, okay? You may be speeding up that pine box too, but anyway. I'm not just trying to sell your home, but I just am concerned that what you mentioned about the importance of interaction, the support, the social engagement. I just always want to mention that. Okay, Brian, I want you to think, Brian, you want to add anything to that?
Sure, and I would agree with all of the examples she gave. Those are certainly appropriate. Some of the other things that I see are couples coming in when they're planning ahead, that maybe one of the spouses is starting to look like they're going to need some extra care in the near future, and so they're planning and wanting to get in somewhere before that need arises. And then sometimes you have a spouse who's no longer with them, and they're lonely and they don't have that social circle. And so getting into a community like one of these gives them that built-in social circle and activities to help support them.
I want to pick up on Brian's comment. This will come up a little bit later too, but as a couple, I know we face challenges. We progress we age at different rates. Different physical challenges. How do we plan ahead? We've got to have those tough conversations. I was just speaking to a woman last night. She was a real estate client. She and her husband moved to independent living a year and a half or so ago, and he did have physical challenges. And theirs was very much what Brian said, planning ahead. They knew, even though they had extra support with home care and in some cases home health coming in, there was going to be a point where they needed more than that. So they moved to independent living. It's been a great experience. They've enjoyed that interaction. But yesterday she said, we've had to make the tough decision. He needs more support than she could give him, or even to have people coming in to help. She said, I can't, if he falls, she said, I can't even get him up. And hard decision, but they planned ahead. And so now they're in a community where he has an assisted living apartment, and at this point, she's maintained their independent living. So we look ahead. We don't want those. You know, we often in our industry kind of joke, we want to make these, when's the best time to move? Just before the crisis. Unfortunately, we don't have the crystal ball to tell us when that's going to happen. So the sooner the better makes it the recommendation. Okay, so Jen, I want to turn to you. And I know that, you know, and it's fun as I talk with people in positions like you, and people like this come and visit, and you get them all excited about your community. It's a great place. Hey, I don't have to worry if they're going to come mow my lawn. I don't have to worry about the hail damage to my roof. I don't have to go to the grocery store. This sounds pretty good. Maybe I should make that decision and make the move. And others are still waving, well, it's not quite right. So, Jen, what can you share with us about reasons why people then decide not to move?
Sure, that's a great question. So, one of the questions I get quite often is, you know, who's your biggest competitor, Jen? Is it the Wesleyan or is it the Oscar? Which, yes, but friendly. And I say, no, it's their home, absolutely, for all sorts of reasons. I was thinking about this question and kind of came up with 3 of my top reasons, Virginia, and I'll start with 3 and work my way up. First is the home, one emotionally, but how many times have we seen the housing market ebb and flow up and down, and everyone's waiting for that perfect price point, right? The highest selling point they can wait. And I've seen people ride that up and then ride it right back down and say, oh, I wish I shoulda, coulda, woulda, right? So that's one of the big reasons. Second reason, a lot of times this happens with couples, and they're waiting for, well, we're doing great, we have each other, right? If something happens to Bob or something happens to June, that's when I'm going to make the move. And that's certainly an option. But think about the decision you're making. It's one of the top biggest 5 decisions you're going to make in your life. And the move is physical, it's emotional, and doing that by yourself if something would happen without your spouse. I can't tell you, Virginia, how many times a couple's lived with us for years and maybe something has happened to one or the other. And they said, I'm so glad I made this move first. My new friends now knew Bob. They're missing Bob with me. I've got that emotional support, and it would not have been the same. And then the number 1 reason, the golden ticket of all reasons, is I'm not ready. I say, okay. Well, tell me what does that mean to you? What does ready look like to you? Because what ready looks like to Mrs. Jones is not going to be what it looks like to Mrs. Smith, right? And sometimes even with spouses, it's a different answer. So I would highly suggest you start looking at what ready looks like to you and start making note of that, because it's important to you, it's important to us. And also, one last thing, remember, ready to move doesn't mean ready to educate. That's 2 different things. I highly suggest, you may not be ready to move now, but it's never too early to start to narrow down your choices, educate yourself, and make your selection. We all have opportunities for wait lists. I have folks who say, I don't want to waste your time, I'm 5 years out. You're never a waste of time. Make your decisions now. So you're making those decisions, not your children or anyone else. And so I think you can be ready for that.
And that's the reason in your packet we have the letter, the sample letter. That can be a great catalyst for discussion with your spouse, with your family. You know, some of you were here, I don't remember when it was, Pierce, she talked about family meetings, and I've heard some people say that's something I need to have a meeting with my family, an annual family meeting, kind of updating on what our plans are. You know, and what's funny to me, funny is the right word, but I can't tell my kids we're thinking about moving. They'll think there's something wrong with me. In the background, the kids are like, God, I wish mom and dad would move. They need to move. How about if we get together and have the conversation? And it doesn't mean I'm giving up living. I'm probably going to be more involved and have more opportunities when I'm in a community. And that's, I think, the important part. One thing that Jen didn't mention that I'm going to throw in there, and it's probably in involved in some of those others. One of the main reasons I see people say, yeah, I'm going to go. And so I know I say this a lot. Drive back home and you pull in your garage, or maybe outside if your garage is full, but what do you see? All the stuff. And what do you say? Oh, no way. Nope, change my mind. I'm not going. I can't cope with making that change. Well, today's not the day to get into that discussion, but I'll let you in on a secret. There are ways to get it done. There are professionals who can help you. Plans can be developed. So I do get concerned when people say, no, I can't move. It's got too much stuff. Let's start a plan to work through that stuff and get you on to enjoy this new life, and you're hearing a lot about that. Okay, thank you. Let's see. Let's learn a little bit about the activities at this place. Some of you may have visited, or you may have friends, so you may have a good idea. Some of us really don't know. So, Brent, I want you to talk first about, while this is being built here, you've been with your company in other communities.
Yes.
So for the 55 plus section, what are kind of are there activities? What goes on there?
Yeah, absolutely. So just to clarify, we are still very much under construction in Round Rock. We're not open just yet. And so I'm speaking based off of my experience from some of the other communities that I've been at. But, the activities really are the bread and butter of our community. We are big on social interaction and community culture, and you'll experience that the minute you walk into our community. There are all kinds of activities and events that go on, and the best part is our residents get to decide what that looks like. So depending on what your specific hobbies or interests are, we have all kinds of activities: live entertainment, ice cream social, happy hour. We have a rooftop lounge if you want to grab a drink or a bite to eat with some friends. We have an outdoor pool, pickleball courts. So it's very much a campus focused around activities. Keeping your mind and body active is really, really important for us, right? And there are so many studies that have been done in regards to social interaction. So we all like a day when we're home watching Netflix, right? But we really do encourage our residents to get out and be active and social.
So I want to and then when we talk about, as she said, this is their community, you'll find variations, but other 55 plus communities like this. Here in Georgetown, we do have North Star. There's Affinity in Round Rock. There are several Overtures. So, they're all going to be different. But generally, there is that keeping people involved and a little bit perhaps more resident-directed than in some of the others. Yes. But I want to find out about the rooftop lounge when you open.
And just to add something else, a big reason why we see a lot of people move to 55 plus is because they love to travel too, right? So whether that's within Texas or internationally, they like to be able to turn the key and go. And so that's also part of our activity program too, is creating opportunities like that for our residents.
Okay, let's see. So we kind of focused there on the 55 plus. I don't know why I keep skipping like this, but my notes tell me. Brian, what about the extracurricular activities in independent living generally?
Sure. So you will hear some similarities in our answers. In independent living, it is very much about lifestyle choices for activities. When in an independent community like ours, you will have a lifestyles director and other full-time team members that it is their job to listen to you of what you're interested in and provide different opportunities throughout 7 days a week so that you can pick and choose what you want to participate in. There are so many things going on in a community like ours that you can't do them all. And so there are things that, the Bridge Club, those people are going to do that. The people that like to play pool and get together and do that will do that. But you have so many different options because you have people that are planning them, as well as some resident-led activities. But just a lot to offer from, and it changes. In our communities, you will have monthly meetings where you can meet with that lifestyle director and say, well, we really enjoyed this. We want more of those entertainers coming in, or we really didn't like this. Maybe we'll have less of that. So you have some input and control in what your opportunities are.
Jen, go ahead and jump into anything you want to add to independent living communities that it's there and things for people to do.
From an activity standpoint?
Yeah, just about
Yeah, I mean, and
lifestyle.
you're right, there's some similarities there, certainly, but that social outlet, and I think I'm going to bring in opportunities for folks who, maybe your friends haven't made the move. And so what an opportunity. I can't tell you how many residents love that they get to be the hostesses with the mostesses, right? And use all of our common areas and have us do all the cooking and the setup and the cleaning and still be able to have their bridge groups out or their church groups out or their ladies' luncheons or their red hats. So those things do not have to go away just because you make a move to a community.
I'm glad you mentioned that. You know, when we say, oh, I can't give up my home, you know, what is your home? It's you. It's your prized possessions. You just have a new home now. And so that was a great example of the activities. Now, what if and I'm going to let any of you jump in on this one, then we're going to get to AL in just a minute. You know, I'm an introvert. I just want to go stay in my apartment. Don't come bother me with beanbag baseball or bingo or whatever it is. What happens to me? Brian's ready to go.
So you always have some of those individuals that are in your community, and that's the nice thing about it, is that you can choose to participate in what you want or what you don't. Maybe you don't like to have a large social circle, but you like to swim for low impact exercise. You can go down to the pool at 10 o'clock at night and get your swim in. Or if you love to read, you can go to the library and not interact with anybody. It's up to you if you don't want to.
Okay. I think the other part is sometimes when we think about these activities, and I'm into, you know, whatever it might be, I always pick on beanbag baseball, but we hear things like that. I'm not going to go do that. Are you kidding me? No, I don't want to go play bingo. No. But that's before you're living there. Okay, Brian's
I just
ready.
wanted to add one other thing with that I know that there are people out there that might be a little introverted, but they love those social opportunities. If somebody else puts it together, and it's easy to just walk down the hall and be a part of it. And so that's one of the nice things as well.
There you go, the walking down the hall to it. You know, for some of us, I would go to the fitness center, but I have to drive. I don't want to have to get in my car and go. Guess what? You walk down the hall and you're there. Now here, I'm going to see if you all have a response for this. This is a bonus question. When sometimes people will say, oh, I do not want to walk down those long halls to go for my meals. Any response you all have for that?
If you don't use it, you lose it.
Yeah.
Walking is good.
You need to do. Here's your exercise plan. You're getting ahead on your steps for the day. I remember visiting with a couple who had moved to a community, and there was quite a distance from their apartment to the dining room. And they both commented, and the wife in particular said, I am doing so much better with my walking now because I'm walking. You know, get out and do it. And so consider it part of your exercise plan. And, you know, and yeah, so good. Glad you jumped in on that, Chris. Okay, well, Chris, we've talked about activities in independent living, and so often we focus on that. What about assisted living? Do you have activities in assisted living?
Yes, we absolutely have activities in assisted living. Assisted living is very similar to
Are
independent.
you hearing okay?
Can you hear me?
Okay.
Okay. So in assisted living, we're titled that because we are licensed by the state as an assisted living community.
Okay, now that's an important just statement to clarify, because she said as assisted living, you're licensed by the state. Independent living is not. Not that it matters to you, but there are different requirements.
There's
there.
requirements that we have to follow through the state. It helps you find a community where you can age in place without having to move. So we have people that are independent in our community. meaning they can shower themselves, they can bathe themselves. But if it's easier for you to have 3 meals a day that are prepared for you, someone cleaning your apartment every day, you're getting assistance. So the activities are very similar in assisted living as they are in independent living. We've got the lifestyles director that is going to kind of personally packaged depending on the people that are in the community. We're always going to have bingo, I think. We're always going to have chair volleyball, which might sound silly at some of your age groups, but it is fun. I've sat there, I've played it. A balloon just brings a smile to your face. We built a bocce ball court indoors because somebody wanted to play bocce ball. We do outings, we go shopping, we go out to eat, we go out to dinner, we go to the movies. We offer a lot of activities that are a little easier for you to do when someone else is driving, when someone else is there to carry your bags from the grocery store inside back into your community. We have a pool table. We just brought in a ping pong table because someone living at Sun City plays ping pong every day. It's assisted living is just that easy button where people are there for you throughout the stages that you're in. I love that you said that earlier. It's not your age, it's your stage. Because everyone's stage is different and it has nothing to do with your age.
Let's see. Okay, Jennifer, you want to add anything on that one too about, because you all have assisted living also at Delaney.
We do. No, I mean, you said that beautifully. I agree. And I love that you mentioned that somebody moved in and you built a bocce ball court, and how the community can evolve, even if it's been open a while, to the new residents that move in, and be flexible. Can't tell you how many activities were not on our life enrichment calendar. Really quick example, we had a retired surgeon who moved in and he said, "Jennifer, do you have needle pointing?" And I said, "For who?" And he said, "For me." I said, "We don't. Tell me more about that." And this is before retirement. He said, "This is how I kept up my fine motor skills." And so I said, "No, but build it and they will come." So I got with my life enrichment coordinator, and we had him in 1, then him in 3, then him in 20. So it can evolve. So bringing in your ideas and your ideas for opportunities is always welcome.
And the important point too is that, like we said a while ago, you listen to some of these activities. I'm not going to go do that. That's kind of crazy. Some of us, it's a mindset. You know, we have time now. Maybe we need to relax a little bit and enjoy the volleyball. I mean, the chair volleyball?
Balloon volleyball.
Balloon volleyball. There you go. So anyway, you can't judge. It's your own lifestyle and where you are. You know, when we talk about downsizing, we always say the final step is embracing the community where you are. You know, it's go for it, be a part of it, take advantage, you know, be open to things. Now, there's always this discussion, and I'm kind of mixing up some questions here, but why do people move to AL? Okay, I'm going to start with Krika. You mentioned that do I have to have needs of one of the activities of daily living? Do I just feel that I need more assistance?
It definitely is about what you need. My mother-in-law lives with me. She is 76 years old, has her bedroom on the 2nd floor. She's going to outlive us, I swear. So she's an extremely independent woman, and she is begging me to move in because she's lonely. We are not enough conversation for her. We are not her peers. When her husband passed away, all I keep hearing is her saying, "I miss conversation." And so she comes to our activities and she becomes a part of this community that she needs to be a part of. And we pay off our condo in April, so I think that's when it's going to happen for her. So it's about what you need in your stage of life. Another reason to move, just besides the social aspect, is, again, that easy button. Having a community around you that is taking care of the utilities, taking care of the cable, the Wi-Fi bill, stuff just gets simplified. That support group around you that is going to make sure you're taking your meds. I need someone to manage my meds. I can't seem to remember to take them all the time. So you have a nurse in the building that is, and caregivers in the building 24/7 that are making sure you're eating. And if you're not, we can, ask you how you're feeling. How are you doing? Do you need to see the doctor? I think we tend to say we're fine too much, especially as we get older and we tend to isolate ourselves. I can manage, I'm fine. You could be doing so much better. You could be living a much more vibrant lifestyle in a community setting where someone is looking out for you. You've got that community.
Jennifer, why don't you respond to that too? And do you see the situation when people move from independent living to assisted living?
So, yeah, certainly. And then the big question is, when? When do I know that? So in 34 years, I've seen that evolve. Independent living, you'll agree with me, used to be very black and white, did it not? You were independent, you saw very little walkers and zero kind of supportive care, and then it was time for a move to assisted living. That, thank goodness, has evolved, and so in most communities, independent living communities, you can receive support with your ADL care there as well. Bathing, dressing, grooming, medications. Very similar to assisted living. So the question I get, Virginia, is, well, Jennifer, what's the tipping point? What's the difference if I get my care in independent living versus assisted living? I try to oversimplify it, and I divide it by scheduled care versus on-demand care. So for example, if you're living in independent living and you need all of those requirements I just forementioned, and it can be put onto a schedule, where they're going to come by twice a day and do your meds and come by 3 times a week and help you with showers. And in between that time, you're fine. You don't need to be on a button because you can get off the couch by yourself. You don't need transfer assistance, and you don't have needs that you can't anticipate throughout the day. That works flawlessly. But if you start to get to a point where you need unscheduled care or on-demand care, that is really the tipping point from a service level and also monetarily, to really start looking at the assisted living, lifestyle. So,
Brian, did you want to add anything along those lines?
I think she caught it right, or added it right there at the end. It's just comparing costs at that point. It may make more sense financially to make that shift and have it available 24/7.
What we are seeing in independent living now, more opportunities for people to bring in assistance. Many of the independent living communities have it available for an extra charge, or people can bring in their own, such as Comfort Care, Visiting Angels, or whatever. So that's a way of, and often in independent living, we say that's a way to stay in there longer. But I like your phrase, tipping point, Jen, so that there reaches a point when you need more, it could be advantageous to be in assisted living. One of the things I want to ask about assisted living, now, I think I may have jumped up the questions here, but you will often hear, I want to first say, type B, who wants to address that? Because I know when people will visit assisted living and we throw around these terms, they're type B, it's mobility, and what does it mean? Krista, you want to address that for us?
So having a license is very important in an assisted living community, especially if you have long-term care insurance, because it will cover, you have to be licensed. There's a type A and there's a type B. So the type A community is typically people are a little bit more independent, and one of the factors of being a Type A is that your residents have to be able to evacuate themselves from the building in the event of a fire. So you're more mobile in that Type A community. So in a Type B community, the team is allowed to help you escape a burning building. So that's one of the main differences between Type A and Type B. So if you're entering that stage of your life where you're considering an assisted living community, once you start losing mobility, you're not going to want to move again, especially at that stage. So it's important that you're asking those questions of the communities that you go to. Do you have a license? Is it type A or type B? and understanding the difference between that.
And so for type B, I have to be able, but I can have assistance in evacuating the building, right? I mean,
Like a walker?
well, or a person to help
person.
me. Okay, if I'm in, okay, let's,
Who's-
walker, yeah. If I'm in a motorized cart, can I still be in or do I have to have someone who can help me get in and on my way, or how does that work?
So in type A, if you are in a motorized cart, if you can transfer yourself in and out of it on your own and get out of the building on your own, you're asking, can somebody help me get who? Who is that person going to be? It's not going to be a member of the team in a type A because they've got other things to do in, calling EMS. Their staffing ratios are probably different because they're a type A. So who is going to get you out? A neighbor?
So the important part is if I can transfer. Now, but type B, if I need some assistance in transferring, can I be in type B?
Absolutely. If you are in a wheelchair, you can be in type B. We can assist wheelchairs out of the building, even in a two-story building. We are trained, we do drills, we have equipment to help us do that, and we practice it. We actually do a full evacuation once a year and time it, because those are things that we have to be able to do according to the state.
Okay. Jen or Brian, did you all want to add anything to that discussion in terms of eligibility or levels with the type A and B or anything, or you pretty well covered it?
I would say I'm not seeing a whole lot of type A's being built anymore, that most of them are just type B's so that you're not getting to that point where you're having to move again. I think the self-evacuation is within 13 minutes, and so, there's going to come a time where you're not going to be able to do that. Maybe you need a little help, and so practicality, I guess, is that they're building more type B's.
I agree with that. I've done both, so it doesn't make one community good or bad. It just makes it different and how long they can to meet your needs. So definitely educate yourself. Some other parameters for that licensure, besides evacuation physically, is cognitively they have to be able to follow directions for fire evacuation as well. There is zero transfer assistance. You mentioned that. And then routine night assistance is another parameter there. So if you or your spouse requires any kind of assistance in the evening hours, a type A would not, unfortunately, be able to meet that need. So the big question for you is to ask the question when you're going into communities, and if you're okay possibly plateauing in that community and making another move because you love that community, then you make that move into that community knowing that you're at a little higher risk for having to make a secondary move. And if not, I would focus on the type B assisted livings.
Okay. All right. Yes, I did combine questions here. Okay. What about suggestions that you have on how do people know what's the best community for them? I know I've got and there's some people here, I won't point or look at any people in particular, but who are on that treadmill of I want to make a move, but I'm not sure. That's not quite the right apartment. Any suggestions that you have on helping people move? I would say, when's the best time for a person to move? How do they make that decision? In fact, I'll just let anybody, I can deviate here. Who wants to jump on that one first? Brian?
Is it about how to choose or the timing, like when?
Well, you're right, good clarification. Let's go with how to choose. Let's clarify that part. How do I make that decision?
So I would recommend that when you walk into a building, any building, you're going to get a sense of something within a few seconds. Does it feel welcoming? Are people smiling and happy? You're going to know that so quickly walking in. As you tour through the building, looking at the people that are there, are the residents smiling and happy? Engage them in conversation and ask them how they like the community, because they're going to let you know they're living it. They can help you make that decision. Dining is absolutely huge, so try the food. Go in and have a meal and see if you like it or not. See what the options are, how often they change, does it fit in with what you like. The other thing is looking at the amenities and seeing if they fit in with what you actually look for and appreciate. If you don't care about the indoor heated saltwater pool, then it's not a big deal for you. But if that's a deal breaker, you want to find one that absolutely has that. The sports bar or whatever it is. And then the other thing is just looking at the price point. You know, can you afford the building that has the things that you're looking for? You have to be realistic about it as well.
I wouldn't mind adding to that, or just expanding on it, because I'm sure maybe we've all had this experience where a family comes to us after already making the hard decision and finding a community, and they're not happy where they are. That is just devastating to hear, that they're not getting the service that they hope to have gotten. It definitely is all about what is important to you, and then how do you figure out how to make that decision. So what's important for you today isn't necessarily going to be important for you tomorrow. So make sure you have the longevity of your choices in mind. We are a hospitality-driven business. We want to pamper you and make sure you're comfortable and have the best customer service ever. So how do you know that if we say we got it, we got it? Like he said, the vibe that you get walking in, are the employees, do they look happy? The residents, do they look happy? What we love to do is invite people to the events, to dinner, to lunch, several times. Come be a part of it, because once you meet the residents are going to give you the skinny. They're going to dish out the tea. They're going to tell you everything you need to know, and they're not going to hold anything back. So and same with the team members, you know, the frontline workers. So don't be afraid to become a part of the community before moving in. Test the waters, check it out, come have a meal, come to an activity, come to an outing. We'd love to have you, and we like to show ourselves off. So definitely invest your time into meeting the team and the community, because that's when you'll really know.
Anybody else want to add anything? I think that said a lot about it. And we're going to be talking about our discovery tours in just a minute, because we have an opportunity with these communities for you to experience, and we're going to talk about that. Watermere's will be a little different because they're not open here yet, but we have a plan for that one too. So now, I often hear people say, oh, well, they're salespeople, they're trying to sell me an apartment. Okay, ask good questions, you can get the inside information. In your packet, we have questions for 55 plus and IL. We have those two together. No, do not take in your questions and ask every one of those questions. The people you speak with in the community will be calling me and saying, never ever give those questions out again. There are way too many. I know that, but what's important to you? You know, if you don't have a pet, skip the questions about the pet. Those are questions that have been compiled from people saying, oh, we should ask this. And then we have questions for assisted living and memory care that, what's important to you. So it's just a tool. And then I will be telling about our discovery tours. But the more you can experience the community, and I'm glad that you spoke about that, Carissa, because I think so often, we're kind of over that. We feel okay going to visit 55 plus now that we've learned they're around. Independent living, okay, we can go visit that. Assisted living is still kind of a different thing. So, but of course you all have assisted living, and I'm not trying to skip that, the other communities, like we said, they may be standalone or part of a larger, all levels of care community. I want to switch, and the cost point, Brian brought that up. It varies considerably, and it's going to vary within a community based on the size of your apartment. In assisted living, it may vary based on the levels of service, whether or not they're delivered, or there's all-inclusive or a la carte or per level, so we'll try to get that. But some of us are sitting here going, are we talking about $4,000 a month? Are we talking about $8,000 a month? Or somewhere in between. So let's just do a little rapid fire. Can you give us a ballpark kind of figure for, right now, we're talking about 55 plus apartments. What might we?
Absolutely. So we have a number of different options that range from $1,600 a month up into $5,200, and that would be for a villa or a cottage.
Oh, and I'm glad you mentioned cottages, because in some of these where we do have cottages for people that can't go live in one of those big buildings, okay, seek out the cottages that certain, that some people do have. Okay, so that was a good price range there. Now, when we get to independent living and it's going to go, whoa, remember, then we got meal plans involved. Okay, so just for, you can make some notes about this. Now, so Watermere, yeah, that is independent living. So what would be your price range for independent living?
So at Watermere, we would be looking at $2,600 a month to about $5,800 a month. And again, that would be for a villa.
Okay, and that's for one person, and then
Yes.
usually there is a fee for the
Yes, we do have an additional occupant fee, which is $325 a month. And really what that is for is to allow that additional occupant to have access to all the different services and amenities on a resort-style campus.
Okay, so you gotta got a range there. What about at the Delaney for independent living? What would we anticipate?
Sure. So range starts around $3,600 a month, and will go up to $8,300 a month. Again, I'm sure we've all got those phone calls. First question is, how much do you cost? And you start, and they hang up the phone. So apples and apples, oranges to oranges. Not every independent living is going to have the same things that are included. 24-hour staffing, emergency response, how many meals is included, all of that. So definitely when you get the price, make sure you can, make a list of the value to that as well. But that's our ranges for independent living.
Okay, good, and that's an important part about that. Well, I'm gonna let Brian, and I'm gonna add one other thing about the meals. Okay, Brian, what about, we're at the
Definitely agree.
Oscar?
Get some more details, not just here's a price, here's a price. We have 16 different floor plans in independent living, and studios start at 35. You go up to about 42 start for one bedrooms, and then up to 6,200 for two bedrooms. We do have a couple of customs that we put together that end up in the 7 to 8 range per month.
So it just gives you a ballpark figure, but most importantly, what is included, and so that's where you have to dig deeper there. I wanted to go back on the meal plan too, and that's one of the changes we're seeing in independent living. I think originally independent living was more of a dining room or a buffet, cafeteria, generally one dining venue. But over the years, new independent living communities come on the scene, and now we have more options. There are bistros, or there's the grab and go, or there's the full dining menu service or the buffet. Some of us say, well, I'm never going to go eat at fine dining. I don't need that. Okay, that's fine. Some of us like to grab and go, So you have to know, it's on your questions to find out about that. Okay, so we kind of got an idea about independent living. Now I'm going to start down there. Carissa, what about assisted living?
In assisted living, we have a studio that is going for $3,500 a month, and that can include up to 40 hours of assistance if you need it. And then on the high end, we're looking more like $7,500, and that's for a one bedroom with the highest level of care.
Okay, so you've got the range there and the levels of care. Now, do you go by some of us, we have level 1, 2, or 3, or yours are more a la carte? How does your levels of service work?
So our nurse does an evaluation, and it's very thorough and it's very detailed. It's all about what it is you need. So we're catering a plan to what kind of assistance you may or may not need from us, and to what degree. And it's based on the amount of time a caregiver would be spending on whatever your needs may be. Your needs could be as simple as getting reminders for activities and meals, or assistance with bathing, some heavier lifting, so to speak. We group ours into 4 different levels. So it's really difficult to say, well, what's included with level 1? It depends on what you need and how much time is going to be spent. So once we do an evaluation and can cater your care plan, then we can talk about what it actually includes. But we have to do a lot more digging and get a little more personal with you in order to nail that down.
Brian, what about assisted living at the Oscar, a range?
So we're currently in pre-leasing, so we're at 5,500 a month, where it'd be 58 when we open up. But one of the unique things there is that the care is bundled into that rate of 5,500. So you're not going to get that call that things have increased when, you need extra showers or extra help.
Okay, so that one fee includes your services.
Yeah, and then,
All right.
did you want memory care as well?
No, we're going to stop at assisted living. We're already going to be enough confusion. Okay, Jen, what about over at the Delaney?
So we have several floor plans, and pricing starts off at $5,700 a month. Very similar to what you shared. It is more resident-centered care, so it's not a group or a level of care, and really based on the time that an associate is going to be spending with you, so that can fluctuate. We do have a max care cost. So there's a predictable max. So even in worst case scenario, folks can come in long-term plan knowing you're probably not coming in at our max care, but what if we get there? Let me go ahead and kind of project out forward from that number.
It's all about planning, having the information about the kinds of activities, the kinds of apartments, the services that are provided. And when do you get that information? Now. Not when the crisis occurs and we have to make a decision and move next week. That doesn't work very well. If you've already been working on your sample letter and you've identified some possible communities, and I already lost mine, but if you look at that, there are like 3 communities, and then it says something to the effect, if our situation should change here, and we could not go to one of those communities, these are the communities we're considering. What's the hidden story there? Generally it's been a health challenge. And so being blunt, maybe I can no longer go to independent living, or that's not going to be the best place for me. So now this is where I would want to go. It may be assisted living in the same community, or it may be a different. So, that's the reason we put that little tool in there. Okay, I'm going to ask for, this is going to be rapid fire. You can each respond to this. What's your insider tip? These people have given their time to be here, and you've given your time. This is where you get the inside scoop. How can you help these people to be ahead in their potential move to a senior community? What's your insider tip?
So, gosh, there's a lot, but I think
one.
Yeah, I'll keep it short. But my biggest tip would be to do your research, right? Look at the track record of the company. That is my biggest tip. Is the company that you're choosing to align yourself with to move into, are they experienced in this industry? And if so, what has their track record look like? And to what extent, right? Do they also oversee your management team? Ask the tough questions to the company itself. And I know, I think Brian had mentioned, speak to your team, speak to the team there, right? Ask those tough questions and find out as much as you can about the company itself and how they're going to protect you financially down the road.
Okay. And this is one of those dilemmas in the senior industry with certain communities, and the management changes and everything changes. So what's the stability? And I think there are some questions in here related to that. Jen, what would you say your insider tip is?
Yeah, that was a great point. So my insider tip would be, really, it's a personal one for me also. I've only worked for 4 companies in 34 years, so when I go in, I know I was interviewing, but I was interviewing them as well. And so at every community I've been in, prospects and their family members have access to our resident satisfaction surveys and our employee satisfaction surveys. So start with that company, I 100% agree, but what's happening at the ground level and what's being executed in the community? And so ask to see those. And if there's hesitation or no access, you might want to think about that. But just a really good question to ask. And then question I get quite often is, Not only when someone chooses us, why did they choose us, but more importantly, when someone says no, why are people telling you no, that they're not moving to your community?
And I'm also going to jump in with one that you shared with me years ago about, we look at some of these calendars from these communities and there are all these activities. And Jen had called to my attention over the years, but are they really happening? I'm not saying they're not, but you may want to go see.
Yeah, I told you, show up unannounced.
Yeah,
So
just
don't
go
go for the
see, is
tour.
that-
Yeah, don't go for the tour. Just show up on a Saturday afternoon with your calendar and see what's happening.
Okay. Brian, insider tip.
Those are excellent tips. I'm going to take a little different approach with it. So I will tell you that the holiday season tends to be the low season for senior living and people moving in. They all want to have that one last Christmas at home before they make a decision. So for people that are thinking about it and are ready, this is a really good time to come and see them and potentially have good deals on pricing or incentives because this is a slow season.
Yeah, they got to get the end of the year kind of thing, possibly, so that's a good point. Carissa.
I think they nailed it. It's what's happening on the ground. So make sure your questions are about the tenure of the team. It's important to know that there is experience in the building that has been doing it for a while. It's a hard job managing all of those employees and making sure that everyone's happy. And if you've got the track record, you've got a well-oiled machine. And asking hard questions and receiving transparency, not fluffy answers, just honest transparency from not only the salesperson. Let your second tour be a meet the team. Have questions for the nurse in the building, for the activities director in building. Let a third tour be lunch with the residents or an activity. Get your information from the people on the ground. Very important.
And along with that, what's right for one person is not the same for somebody else. Just because your next door neighbor didn't like that community for whatever reason, maybe it's a valid reason, maybe it's not. So you do your own homework, identify your own needs, your own criteria, your goals, and then check it out. Now, I know that some of you are going to have questions. I'm going to let you ask them individually because might take a couple. But I want to highlight in your packet, no, it's not in your packet. It's up here, if they can put, does it have the dates? But can you do the discovery tour? There we go. Okay. We are really committed to you having information. And so one of the things we offer, and we're so appreciative that these communities join with us on this offering, is we call them discovery tours. So we have times that, and Brielle's going to be the person at the sign-up table there. You see the dates. So next Tuesday, October 22nd, from 1 to 3, Truewood has invited. Now, we have a limited number of spots because what we will do, we will go to Truewood, be greeted, and then residents, yours are ambassadors. She said, no problem, we already have them. Your ambassadors will give tours, get that inside information. So that's the opportunity at Truewood, which is assisted living. They also have memory care. We're focused on assisted living right now. Then we have next Thursday, October 24th, from 2 to 4 at the Oscar with Brian's team will be there. And we'll focus on independent living, but if we need, oh, no, on yours it'll be it because your assisted living's not open yet. So, okay.
They can tour it if they're interested.
They can tour that. Sometimes people want to see that. Okay, so that's there at the Oscar on Williams Drive. Of course, Truewood is right there by Sun City. And then we have the Delaney over off Shell Road. And so you are the following Tuesday, October 29th in the morning from 10 to 12. And you will welcome people, and then you'll have residents giving tours. And so you can see the Delaney. Again, we focus on independent living, but if they want to see the other, they can do that. Now, here is our anomaly. Because Watermere's not open yet. They're under construction. So what they have agreed is Your reserve is your 55 plus. That will be opening in the spring,
So the 55 plus will be open in the new year.
in the new year. And then the Watermere itself, the independent living, will be later in the spring.
So starting next month, we're opening in phases,
Okay,
but we'll be completely open by April of next year.
okay. So, but what we're going to do is, to be determined, probably the first week of December. So at our November seminar, we will have more specifics about Watermere. But right now, we don't want to interrupt construction, and we don't want to have to put on hard hats. So we'll go in December. Okay, so the signups will be there. I do want to encourage you to sign up. And again, we'll see if we have more people signing up. We'll look at backups or offering some options. But I want to thank you all for being here. Did people learn something today? I hope you guys, and some of you I know already know a lot about these topics, but there may have been some new twists, I hope, I think. I always learn from, oh yeah, I hadn't thought about that perspective. Thank you all so much for taking time to be here. And so let's give a round of applause. And I'm going to let you all go ahead and go over to your tables and let my educational partners go to their tables now. And then look forward to seeing you November 14th, where we'll be talking more about downsizing stories. People have downsized. Please fill out, look at the action steps. Remember, okay, one action step is to look at our senior living options handout there at the glance. Complete this letter to family and share. Think about what it is you want in senior living options. Sign up for Discovery Tour or schedule a tour. November seminar. And that's for you to make a commitment what you want to do. Fill out your response form and leave that on the desk or on the table with your name tag, please. And thank you for being here. And we will hope to see you in November or see you on Discovery Tours the next week. So thanks very much.